Hello book lover, welcome to my channel. My name is Kay and today we're going to be talking about the books that I plan to read in the month of October. If you love clean or Christian fiction, stay tuned because you might want to read some of these too. This month, I decided to plan my reading around a reading challenge that my friend Liv is doing. Her channel is Liv's Library and I'm a part of her Patreon group, and she decided to come out with these bingo boards for the month of October, and you could pick Team Cozy or Team Spooky, and she had 9 different prompts for both of these teams, and so I decided that I'm going to be a part of Team Cozy, and so I decided to come up with my TBR list based on the prompts that she had listed there. So some of these are physical books I own, some of them I own on Kindle or are on Kindle Unlimited. First, I want to talk about the 2 nonfiction books that I plan to read. So last month, I kind of had this awakening of some sort where I had a rough patch in the middle of the month and nothing I read felt significant, and I really just wanted to be in my Bible, and then I also just wanted to read things that would spiritually help me grow a little bit more than the fiction books I'd been reading. So I did read a nonfiction Christian book and it was amazing. I'll for sure be talking about that whenever I do my reading wrap up. I might do my September and October reading wrap up together just because I don't feel like I read a super mega ton in the month of September. But reading that nonfiction book really encouraged me to dive into more Christian nonfiction. I asked a ton of my friends on Instagram to recommend to me their favorite Christian nonfiction books, and I was blessed with a pretty big list. So I'm working on compiling all of those books into a list that I can share with you, but for now I wanted to share the 2 that I decided to get. Between both of these 2 nonfiction books, I'll be able to read 1 chapter every single day of the month of October and finish both of them. Nonfiction is something that I definitely can't binge read like a normal story just because I really want to digest the information. But this first book was the #1 book that was recommended to me. So many people said to read Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund. So this says The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers, and I don't know too much about this just because like so many people recommended it to me, so I was like, all right, I gotta get this one. Also, I love how beautiful this cover is. Matthew 11:28, "Come to me all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Christians know what Jesus Christ has done, but who is he? What is his deepest heart for the people weary and faltering on their journey toward heaven? Jesus said he is gentle and lowly in heart. This book reflects on those words, opening up a neglected yet central truth about who he is for sinners and sufferers today. So that is Gentle and Lowly, and I'm really excited to get into that one. The next one I think is probably going to be the first nonfiction book that I'll be reading this month, and that is Stop Asking Jesus Into Your Heart: How to Know for Sure You Are Saved by J.D. Greear. So that sounds like a super harsh title, but as soon as I read it, I was like, oof, because I think my biggest struggle, I'm just getting a little bit personal with you guys here, my biggest struggle in my personal faith is assurance of faith, and I have for sure gone through some things in my life that I feel like are irredeemable, but we know that's not true because we know what Jesus did. He saved us once and for all. He sanctifies us. He works on us. He is a redeemer. He is amazing and wonderful. But there's always that little part in the back of my head that is, you're not good enough. You're not a good Christian. You're not a real Christian. You're not a good follower of Christ. You're not a believer. You know, those types of things. I feel like everybody has struggled with those types of things at some point. So this book was recommended in an article that I read about books on assurance, and when I read the title of that one, it definitely got to me, and I decided that it is the one that I needed to pick up, and it's really short. It's less than 150 pages. It's like 120 pages. So I definitely plan to read this, and I'm just hoping that it can help give me some wisdom using scripture about what the Bible says about assurance of our faith. So that is stop asking Jesus into your heart. So those are the 2 nonfiction books that I plan to read in the month of October. I would really like to try to read nonfiction every single month of the year from here on out, even if it's 1 book. And for next year, I mean like every single month of the year for the rest of my life from here on out, because I do think that there is so much wisdom you can get from other believers. Obviously, use discernment when you are reading and look up scripture and contextual things for yourself. But I think it's going to be a really fulfilling part of my reading journey, and I would encourage you to look into some topics that you might be interested in too, or that you might be also struggling with. Next, let's move into the fiction books that I plan to read this month. This is a list of clean and Christian, so a couple of them I believe aren't by Christian authors, but they are stated as clean reads, and so we will see how that goes. So the 9 prompts that I'm going to be using this month, and I'm not saying I'm going to read every single one of these books because I'm not sure what this month is going to look like, but I'm going to try my best. So the 9 prompts are, and I've got them here on my phone, so I'm going to read them off of here. A cozy fantasy, a small town, a book that feels like a hug, a book with an animal companion, a book to read by the fire, a book set in the fall, a pumpkin on the cover, orange on the cover, food or bakery item on the cover. So they are just so super cute and cozy. I'm really excited about this TBR. I'm gonna try not to read the backs of every single one of these books because I would like this to be a little bit of a shorter video for you guys. Some of the titles you'll recognize from my recent video because there are a couple mystery books that I plan to read this month, but don't worry, not all of them are repeats from my last video. The first book for cozy fantasy, and you guys please let me know if you've read this book, if you would not consider this a cozy fantasy. I was looking up the genre for this and it said sci-fi with fantasy elements, but also I feel like reading it was like there's not a ton of fantasy in it. However, this is a middle grade, and when I think of middle grade, I typically think cozier. So if I'm completely off base, please let me know, and I have a backup book that I'll be reading, and I'll tell you that in a little bit. But it is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. This book is a middle grade where these children are sent through some mind-bending tests, and it says the reader takes part in these tests with the kids as they're taking them in this book, which is so fun. Only 4 kids will succeed through these elaborate tests, and with that they have a secret institute at a mission where the only rule is that there are no rules. So that's all I really know about this book. The synopsis really leaves a lot of mystery in the air with it, which I think is super fun. I love middle grade books where they make the reader a part of the story too. I looked it up on Amazon. This is not on Kindle Unlimited, but when I looked at the synopsis on Amazon, the quote ended with, "If you're gifted, creative, or happen to know Morse code, they could probably use your help." The next prompt is small town, and the book is going to look a little familiar because it is Night Falls on Predicament Avenue. I talked about this in my last video. I'm going to be buddy reading this with book lover Amanda, and I'm so excited. I just absolutely love and adore her. I don't want to go too into depth with this one. I'll just read this little synopsis that I made on my phone. The past timeline takes place in a small remote town, and so that is in 1910. Effie's sister witnessed a murder and might be in danger of the killer's retribution, and she must prove what her sister saw. And then 100 years later, you have Nora. She has social anxiety and grief as she runs her late great aunt's bed and breakfast. She doesn't care much for the house, only carrying out her murdered sister's dreams. But someone is murdered, and somehow it's linked to the 1910 death of Isabel Addington. So somehow these 2 timelines, these 2 mysteries are going to connect, and I'm really interested to figure out how. The next book, so many people have told me I would absolutely love, and I put this under the category feels like a hug because I just feel like this book is going to feel like a hug, but so many people told me I would love this book, so I decided it's time to give it a shot, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. All I know is that this is about an orphan girl who wants to be adopted, and there's maybe a farm. I know it takes place in the fall, or at least parts of it do, and the only quote that I know from this book, and it's perfect for the month of October. I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers. And you know what? I so agree with that. So that is Anne of Green Gables, and I'm really excited to read this one. The next one is going to be a Kindle read, and this one I planned to read last month, but I didn't get to it, and that is Drake Hall by Christina Baehr. So this is the second book in the Secrets of Ormdale series, and the first one was a novella. I think it was like 170 pages or something, pretty short. I don't want to go into the synopsis of the second one because I don't want to spoil anything for myself, but this prompt was for an animal companion, and in the first book, the character Edith, she did have like an animal companion lizard, so I'm assuming she's still going to have this companion going into the second book. If you don't know what this series is about, it's basically this girl's family ends up getting inherited her father's estate. When they get there to the estate, things just seem really strange, and there might be some mythical creatures involved. There's a light mystery in the first book, and it's just super fun, and it's very cozy read. So I highly recommend checking out the series. I'm excited to get into the second one because I think there's going to be more of a little subtle romance going through it, and I also think there's going to be more mythological creatures, so I'm really excited about it. What I appreciated about the first one is there was a light faith thread through it, and I just thought it was so wholesome, and the author did a really nice job tying those types of Christian themes into it. Book 3 in this series will be my backup for cozy fantasy. If the Mysterious Benedict Society isn't considered a cozy fantasy, then I will be doing books 2 and 3 of the Secrets of Ormdale series. They are novellas, so I feel like I could get both of them read. That is my contingent plan as of the moment. The next prompt is a book to read by The Fire, and I talked about this one already last week, and that is The Curious Inheritance of Blakely House. Again, this is just about this clockmaker who ends up inheriting her estranged uncle's house who she's never met, and his nephews are still there, and they seem to think that she had something to do with his murder, and they want her to leave. So that is, in essence, in short, The Curious Inheritance of Blakely House. And this is by Joanna, Davidson, Politano. The next prompt is a book set in the fall. I'm assuming this book is set in the fall solely based off of the covers. If I'm wrong and you've read this, please let me know. Now, this is one that is a sweet, clean romance. I'm not 100% sure if this author is a Christian. I think she is, but I will let you know for sure when I read this. I am kind of on the fence whether I want to continue reading just clean books or if I solely want to focus on Christian fiction instead of secular clean fiction. So I'll let you know where my comfort level is with this. I think this month I'll really decide whether or not I'll continue because I really like having a faith thread in it because it helps me as a believer connect with the story a lot more. But without further ado, the book set in the fall is The Perfect Rom-Com by Melissa Ferguson. So if you look at this cover, you can see there are some trees that are changing covers. The guy's wearing this sweater. Very fall vibes. So I'm assuming this book takes place in the fall. So what this one is about is this girl is a ghostwriter, and she basically shows up at her first writer's conference, and she really wants her own book published, and she really wants to sell her manuscript. But while she's selling her manuscript, things kind of go awry. She ends up critiquing another author's work, and they end up hiring her to be a ghostwriter for one of the most popular rom-com authors around. Now, she agrees to it with the caveat that the literary agent works on helping her publish her book too. The literary agent is a guy, so I'm assuming that her and this guy are the romance story of this book. And I just think it sounds really cute, and I'm really excited as somebody who is a writer that is writing a rom-com. I think it'll be just super cute and fun to read. The next prompt is a pumpkin on the cover, and this book is on Kindle Unlimited, and I don't have a physical copy of this. Callie and the Pumpkin Seed. This is a cozy autumn Cinderella retelling, which is just super fun. I read a Cinderella retelling this last month and I enjoyed it, so I'm excited to get into another one and see what I think of it. But this one is a baker and she gets hired to cater the prince's ball. And so she obviously is like, heck yeah, I'll do that. And she goes, she caters the ball. She has an early exit, which somehow gets the prince's attention, and you know the rest of the story. A snippet from the synopsis is, she's a baker struggling to support her step family. He's a prince running from the biggest decision of his life. Can their friendship result in something sweet, or is it a recipe for disaster? So I think that just sounds super cute. Again, I'm not sure if this is Christian fiction or just clean fiction, so I would just let you know what I end up thinking of it. The next prompt is orange on the cover, and this one, yet again, another familiar book, is What We Hide by Colleen Cobble and Rick Acker. I had somebody comment on my last video that she really enjoyed the Colleen Cobble books, especially with Rick Acker. I'm assuming that he is a co-author. That's why his name is on this. But as you can see, this is like very fall aesthetic cover. But in this book, in short, what's happening is there's a married couple and they're really struggling in their marriage. He is fighting to get her back and she's turning him down. She goes back to work at the college campus that her family ended up founding actually 100 years prior, and then all of a sudden she is suspected for a murder. Now her husband is a defense attorney, so she has to ask him to help defend her in this case. So my hope for this book is that it is a good reconciliation novel between the marriage of these two characters, but also I hope there is a really good mystery in here. And the last prompt is food or bakery items on the cover. Hello, sweet friend. Future Editing K here. So I totally made a goof on this last prompt. I had chosen a book that I found on Kindle Unlimited. It looked super cute. It was labeled as clean, and I started reading it and things just felt off about this book, and I can't really explain what it was. But I did some digging and I found out the book was actually an AI generated book. So I decided to absolutely DNF that, and I do not want to give that any sort of screen time in this video. I reached out to some of my friends, and my friend Jaime, she has a YouTube channel at the Canson Reader. She recommended that I read this book, Forget Me Not by B.R. Goodwin, and this is by a Christian author. However, I am reading it and there's not any Christian elements in it, so I'm not sure if this is just clean romance or if this is going to end up being Christian romance. I'll let you know, but at the present moment it just seems like it's a clean read. But this is about a girl who moves back to her hometown and she decides to open up a pretzel shop, and she has this really confusing neighbor, and he's like super duper grumpy some days and then he's super kind and sweet to her other days. So there's a little bit of a mystery going on, trying to figure out what it is that's going on with him, why he's giving her all this whiplash, and it's cute at the present moment. I don't think this is going to be a 5-star in all honesty, but it is just going to be a cute, quick read. And yeah, I just wanted to jump in and let you guys know that I for sure do not support AI generated books. I would much rather support a human author, and this is something that I feel like us book reviewers are definitely going to have to start keeping an eye out, especially on platforms like Kindle Unlimited, is trying to discern and figure out what is AI generated. So I think this month I have a good mix between mystery thriller type books and then cozy fantasy and then clean, cute rom-coms. I am a absolute chicken when it comes to scary stories. I can't watch scary movies, but I remember as like a teenager watching scary movies with my friends. Then after we'd watch a scary movie, we would have to put a Disney movie on to be able to sleep at night. So I am considering these romances and cozy fantasies to be the Disney movies that I will watch after the scary movies of the thriller books I will be reading. If you've made it this far in the comments, please let me know the #1 book that you're excited to read this month, along with any Christian nonfiction recommendations that you might have. This was a much shorter and sweeter video than I'm used to, which honestly I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that. Nonetheless, I am really excited about this month of reading, and thank you so much for sticking around, for supporting my channel. You are the absolute best, and I appreciate you more than you know. I hope you have a very blessed week, and I will see you next Friday.